you think you know Switzerland. A postcard, perfect cliché of soaring Alps, precision watches, and endless chocolate. A quiet, orderly, perhaps even boring nation that simply got lucky with its geography and history. But what if I told you that this placid surface, this reputation for serene stability, conceals a series of breathtaking paradoxes? That the country's famous neutrality is defended by one of the most armed populations on Earth. That its stable government is run by a collective with no single, powerful leader. That its staggering wealth was built not just on innovation, but on a fiercely guarded secret that once brought it to the brink of international crisis. Forget the tourist brochures. We're not here just to see the sights. We're here to understand them. This is a journey to uncover the hidden machinery of Switzerland, a nation that is less a country and more a complex, contradictory, and utterly fascinating idea. Join me as we peel back the layers. Our journey begins not at a palace or a grand presidential residence, but in a relatively modest building in Bern, the Bundeshaus. This is the seat of the Swiss government. Now, I have a challenge for you. Try to name the president of Switzerland. You probably can't. And that's not your fault. Most Swiss people would have to pause and think too. That's because Switzerland doesn't really have one. Not in the way the rest of the world understands the role. The country is run by the Federal Council, a 7-member body elected by the parliament. These 7 individuals, who are also heads of their respective government departments, collectively act as the head of state. The presidency is a rotating, largely ceremonial role that one of them holds for just a single year, mostly involving giving speeches on New Year's Day and welcoming foreign dignitaries. There are no grand State of the Union addresses from a singular leader. No sweeping executive orders, no cult of personality that defines an era. Leadership here is a quiet, negotiated, and almost invisible affair. To an outsider, this seems like a recipe for gridlock and chaos. How can a modern, wealthy nation function without a captain steering the ship? The answer lies in a concept that is quintessentially Swiss, a political arrangement known as the magic formula, or Zauberformel. From 1959 to 2003, this formula dictated the exact distribution of the 7 council seats among the 4 largest political parties, regardless of minor shifts in election results. It was a political truce, a gentleman's agreement designed to ensure stability above all else. The goal was not to have a winner-takes-all government, but a government of permanent, broad coalition. While this specific formula has evolved, its spirit of consensus remains the core operating principle. The Council operates on the principle of collegiality. This means that behind closed doors, they can debate, argue, and vote on issues fiercely. But once a decision is made by the majority, all 7 members, including those who voted against it, must publicly support and defend that decision as a single, united voice. This discipline prevents the kind of public infighting and political drama that paralyzes other governments. It's the first secret to Switzerland's success as power is deliberately diluted, spread so thin that no single person can ever truly wield it. It's a system built on the radical belief that compromise is more powerful than charisma, and that long-term stability is worth sacrificing the short-term glory of decisive, individual leadership. But if the politicians at the top have their power so carefully limited, then who truly runs this country? The answer might surprise you. It's the people. Or, if you were Swiss, it would be you. While most of us in democracies vote every few years to elect representatives, the Swiss do that, and so much more. Typically 4 times a year, the entire nation is called to the polls to vote directly on specific laws and policies. This isn't symbolic consultation. It's binding. This is direct democracy, and it's the true center of power in Switzerland. The system has two primary tools. The first is the optional referendum. If the parliament passes a new law, any group of citizens who disagrees can challenge it. If they can gather 50,000 verified signatures within 100 days. A task often undertaken by volunteers in train stations and public squares. The law is put to a national vote. If the people vote no, the law is dead. It is a permanent popular veto. The second, more powerful tool is the popular initiative. If you can gather 100,000 signatures within 18 months, you can propose a brand new amendment to the Constitution yourself. The government and parliament can voice their opposition, but ultimately, the entire country must vote on your idea. Think about the implications. In 2016, the world was captivated when the Swiss voted on a popular initiative to give every adult citizen a universal basic income of around $2,500 a month. The idea was radical, and the Swiss people, after months of intense national debate, rejected it overwhelmingly, with nearly 77% voting no. They weren't just giving their opinion, they were making the final, unappealable decision. But this system has a much darker and more complex side. The same mechanism that allows for progressive ideas can also be used to enforce deeply conservative, even discriminatory, ones. In 2009, a popular initiative led to a shocking nationwide ban on the construction of new minarets on mosques, a move widely condemned by the UN and human rights groups as a violation of religious freedom. In 2021, another narrow vote approved a ban on full face coverings, a measure largely aimed at Muslim women and dubbed the burqa ban. Direct democracy means the will of the people is sovereign. But it also means their fears and prejudices can be written directly into the Constitution, sometimes in direct conflict with international law. It forces a difficult question. Is it always wise to trust the people to make complex decisions, especially when those decisions affect vulnerable minorities? Switzerland's answer is a resolute, and sometimes troubling, yes. This constant, slow, and deliberate negotiation between the government and its citizens is a delicate dance. And it's all underpinned by another foundational pillar, one that is perhaps the most misunderstood of all. Switzerland is famous for being neutral. For over 200 years, since the end of the Napoleonic Wars and its formal recognition at the Congress of Vienna in 1815, it has steadfastly avoided foreign wars. It sits in the heart of Europe, yet it is not a member of the European Union. It is surrounded by NATO members, yet it is not part of the alliance. This isn't just a political stance, it's the bedrock of the national identity, a core survival strategy. This neutrality has allowed Switzerland to carve out a unique role as the world's diplomat. Geneva is not just a beautiful city on a lake, it's a global hub for peace talks and international organizations, home to the European headquarters of the United Nations, and, most famously, the birthplace of the International Committee of the Red Cross. The Geneva Conventions, the very rules of war, were born here. Switzerland's brand is to be the impartial ground where enemies can meet. But this celebrated neutrality is a profound paradox. For centuries, it was not a pacifist state of peace, but a heavily armed neutrality. The country survived 2 world wars, untouched not just through diplomacy, but because it had turned itself into an impenetrable mountain fortress, a strategic defense plan known as the National Redoubt. The plan was staggering in its scope. Thousands of hidden bunkers were built into the mountainsides, disguised as barns or rock faces. Every major tunnel, bridge, and mountain pass was rigged with explosives, ready to be detonated to halt an invading army. The message was clear. We will not join your fight, but if you invade us, our entire country will become your tomb. Today, this long-held neutrality faces its greatest test in generations. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the world watched to see what Switzerland would do. In a move that shocked many traditionalists, the Swiss Federal Council broke with its long-held tradition and joined the EU in imposing sanctions against Russia. It was a seismic shift. Inside the country, a fierce debate continues to rage. Have they abandoned the very principle that kept them safe and prosperous for 2 centuries? Or have they simply adapted to a 21st century world, where some acts are so egregious that pure neutrality becomes a form of moral complicity? The answer will define Switzerland for the next century. But this complex foreign policy is only possible because of the country's unique economic engine, a machine that also runs on a set of powerful contradictions. A simple coffee in Zurich can cost $7. A casual dinner for 2 can easily top $100. The mandatory monthly health insurance premium for 1 adult can be over 400 francs, or about 450. Rent for a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a major city can easily exceed $3,000 a month. Switzerland is consistently ranked as one of the most expensive countries on Earth. So how does anyone afford to live here? The short answer is that wages are, on average, among the highest in the world. The median monthly gross salary is over 6,500 Swiss francs. But this isn't the whole story. The Swiss economy is not built on mass production. It's built on creating high-value, specialized products that the world is willing to pay a premium for. You see it in the obvious things, like luxury watches from brands like Patek Philippe or Rolex. The Swiss-made label on a watch is not just a marketing term. It's a legally protected designation, signifying that a majority of the manufacturing cost and the final inspection happened in Switzerland, a guarantee of unparalleled quality and craftsmanship. But the real powerhouses are less visible. Switzerland is a pharmaceutical giant, home to titans like Novartis and Roche, whose headquarters cluster around the city of Basel, forming a Bio Valley. It's a global leader in precision engineering, medical technology, and high-tech machinery that other industries rely on. This focus on quality is nurtured by a unique education system. While many countries push for university degrees as the primary path to success, about 2/3 of young Swiss people enter a vocational apprenticeship program after compulsory school. At 16, a student might start a 4-year program to become a polymechanic, a lab technician, or an IT specialist. They spend 1 or 2 days a week in a classroom, and the other 3 or 4 as a paid employee at a company, learning hands-on skills. This isn't seen as a lesser path. It's a highly respected, direct route to a skilled, well-paid career. It's the primary reason why Swiss youth unemployment is consistently among the lowest in the developed world. It creates a workforce perfectly tailored to the needs of its high-tech industries. For decades, the term Swiss bank account was a cultural touchstone, a shorthand for untraceable wealth, a financial black hole for dictators, tax evaders, celebrities, and spies. This mystique was built on Switzerland's legendary banking secrecy laws, first codified in 1934. The law made it a criminal offense for a bank employee to reveal the identity or assets of a client to any third party, including foreign governments, punishable by prison time. The initial intention was arguably noble at the time. It was designed to protect the assets of German Jews and others from the prying eyes and grasping hands of the burgeoning Nazi regime. but after the war. This shield of secrecy became a magnet for a different kind of money. It helped fuel Switzerland's transformation from a relatively poor, agrarian nation into a global financial colossus. Wealth from all over the world, both legitimate and illicit, found a safe, anonymous home in the discreet vaults beneath Zurich's Bahnhofstrasse and Geneva's lakefront. This golden age of secrecy, however, was not without its darkness. In the 1990s, Switzerland was rocked by the Nazi gold scandal and the discovery of thousands of dormant bank accounts belonging to Holocaust victims, which the banks had held for decades without making a serious effort to find the heirs. The crisis forced a painful national reckoning with its wartime past, but the final nail in the coffin came from the United States. Following the 2008 financial crisis, and desperate to crack down on massive tax evasion by its own citizens, the U.S. government passed the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, or FATCA. This law effectively forced foreign banks to report on their American clients or face being frozen out of the U.S. financial system. After years of defiant resistance, Swiss banks, facing immense pressure and billion-dollar fines, were forced to relent. The fortress had been breached. Today, the era of absolute banking secrecy is over. Switzerland now automatically exchanges client data with dozens of other countries. The industry has had to reinvent itself, shifting from a haven for undeclared assets to a center for legitimate, regulated wealth management, sustainable finance, and fintech. But the legacy of secrecy lingers. It raises an uncomfortable question at the heart of the Swiss miracle. How much of this country's pristine stability was built on the world's chaos and crime? It's a ghost that still haunts the clean, orderly streets, a reminder that even in a land of rules, some of the most important ones were about keeping secrets, and those rules extend far beyond banking, into the very fabric of daily life. Walk through a rural Swiss village, and you might find a small farm stand by the road. It's filled with fresh eggs, cheese, and bread. There's no shopkeeper, just a small, unlocked wooden box and a handwritten sign listing the prices. You take what you need, calculate the total yourself, and you leave the correct amount of cash. This is the Swiss social contract in its purest form. It's a society built on an astonishing, almost unbelievable level of trust. This trust permeates everything. On city trams, there are often no ticket barriers. You are simply expected to have a valid ticket. While inspectors do conduct random checks with hefty fines, the system runs largely on the honor system, because buying a ticket is just what one does. This mutual respect is codified in countless unwritten, and sometimes written, rules that govern daily life with an iron fist. Punctuality, for instance, is not just a polite habit, it's a moral obligation. Arriving 5 minutes late to a meeting isn't a minor inconvenience, it's a fundamental sign of disrespect for the other person's time. Recycling is not just encouraged, it's a complex, mandatory ritual with specific days for paper, cardboard, PET bottles, and glass separated by color. And failure to comply can result in fines after your trash is literally sorted through by officials. In many apartment buildings, a shared laundry room is governed by a strict sign-up sheet, and using it outside your allotted time is a cardinal sin. And then there's Sunday. On Sunday, Switzerland shuts down. Shops are closed. Construction is forbidden. It is considered deeply antisocial, and in many places legally prohibited to mow your lawn, use a power drill, or even recycle your glass bottles, as the noise might disturb your neighbor's legally protected peace. But this tightly woven social fabric, while creating an incredibly safe and predictable environment, can feel impenetrable to outsiders. With nearly 26% of its population being foreign-born, Switzerland is one of Europe's most diverse countries on paper. Yet, integration is a huge challenge. The Swiss are often described as polite but reserved, and the complex web of rules can feel suffocating. Becoming a citizen is one of the hardest processes in Europe. It requires a decade of residency, language proficiency in one of the national languages, and passing tests on Swiss culture and civics. Crucially, even after fulfilling all legal requirements, your application can be subject to a vote by your local community. It's the final paradox of the social contract. A society that functions on deep community trust can, by its very nature, be wary of those who stand outside of it. This brings us to our final and most startling contradiction. For a nation defined by peace and neutrality, Switzerland is one of the most thoroughly militarized societies in the world. Military service is mandatory for all able-bodied male citizens. At around age 19, they undergo basic training. But it doesn't end there. They remain part of the militia army until their early 30s, required to attend several weeks of refresher courses every year. The CEO of a major company and a factory worker might find themselves serving as equals in the same platoon. It is a powerful social equalizer. And for decades, these soldiers were required to keep their service rifles, and sometimes even a sealed pack of ammunition, at home. Imagine that, a country where it was normal for hundreds of thousands of military-grade assault rifles to be stored in bedroom closets and basements. The logic harked back to the idea of the armed neutrality. And the citizen, soldier, every man ready to defend the homeland at a moment's notice. Even today, after a 2007 policy change that requires ammunition to be stored in central arsenals, Switzerland still has one of the highest rates of gun ownership per capita in the world. Yet, it has remarkably low rates of mass shootings and gun violence. How is this possible? The answer lies in a culture of responsibility, not rights. Guns are seen not as a tool for personal self-defense against other citizens, but as a solemn duty for national defense. The mandatory military service provides extensive, repeated training in safety, discipline, and responsible handling. Acquiring a gun privately requires background checks, permits, and a legitimate reason like hunting or sport shooting. It is a system that proves high gun ownership and public safety are not mutually exclusive, but only within a very specific, highly disciplined cultural context. It is the ultimate Swiss paradox, a peaceful nation that believes the best way to ensure peace is for every citizen to be a soldier in waiting, a quiet fortress hiding in plain sight. Our journey through Switzerland reveals a country far more complex and fascinating than the simple postcard image. It's a masterpiece of engineered compromise, a nation built on a series of carefully balanced and often challenging contradictions. A leaderless government powered by its people, a fiercely independent nation at the heart of Europe, a peaceful society armed to the teeth, and an orderly paradise with a surprisingly turbulent and morally complex history. Switzerland teaches us that stability isn't an accident of fate. It's an achievement engineered through deliberate design, constant negotiation, and a deep, abiding, and sometimes unforgiving, set of shared rules. What was the most surprising thing you learned about this country? Did it change your perception? Share your thoughts, or any questions you might have in the comments below. If this story opened up a new perspective for you, please share this video with a fellow traveler who loves to look deeper than the surface of a destination. And for more deep dives into the world's most fascinating and misunderstood places, Make sure to subscribe. Thank you for joining this exploration. See you on the next journey.